Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us again. We are very excited to be here on round two with our very special Victor Antonio, having our own special sales training, and we are excited to see what he has to share here with us tonight. Round one was awesome. It's put us all to work this week, getting busy with our homework assignments and reading his book. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Victor.
All right, great. Well, let me begin by say, Tony, do you have the notes I handed out from last week's meeting we had?
I do.
Okay, can you do a quick overview very quickly on everything I just said, just kind of the highlights, so everybody's on the same page?
Okay. So basically, let me pull it up right here. So basically, last week what we went over was we went over the approach. And what our selection was approaching someone with the income opportunity. We profiled a family member. What we done was we Victor broke down for us the approaching a family member like in the comfort of their own home. The scenario was visiting a family member, going to ask questions to a certain what they may be going through, and we qualify them to see if Plexus would be a good fit. And so then we got into the spin, assessing the situation, figuring out what their problems may be, the implication, and then
The need payoff.
the need payoff.
Payoff.
And then the pivoting begins with the acknowledgement and then beginning to share.
Okay.
So great notes you sent us too, by the way, Victor. Thank you very much.
Well, not a problem. So just a small recap. So we got to understand the situation. We have to understand who we're selling to. And again, the key is not to sell right away, because that's usually the mistake we make. We try to get people interested in Plexus right away. And again, what will happen is people will just shut down because just mentally they're not there. So you almost have to kind of get them to that point. And so once we know who we're targeting, and I believe we focused on family members, that was the key one, right? Let's go after family members. And so again, imagine yourself in a one-on-one situation. You're talking to a family member, and let's go through the spin model real quick again. Let's just talk about their situation, just general conversations about, hey, how's it going, Bill? What are you doing? How's everything? How are the kids? But in our minds, in the back of our minds, we know where we want to lead them to. We know where we want to take them. So we know what we're looking for. We're looking for, again, let me repeat from last week. If they got kids going to school and maybe college, do they have enough money put away? If they want to retire soon, do they have enough money put away? If they want to stay at home, can one of them stay home and maybe generate enough revenue? So we're looking for these things to find our angle of attack, so to speak. So we're trying to assess the situation. And the problem piece comes in is when we start looking at maybe some of the difficulties that they're having. Okay? What are some of the issues, problems they may be having? Not enough money for college, not enough money to retire, not enough money to stay home. Those are the things we're looking for, okay? So therein lies the problem. And then we want to ask the implication questions. And what happens if, that's usually how implications start. Well, what if you can't send them to that college because you don't have enough money? What do you think you'll do? And now what you're doing is, again, what's back here, you're bringing it front of mind, and now they have to really think about these things, right? And this is what you're doing. You're basically digging for more pain. Well, wouldn't it be nice to stay home? How do you feel about, letting somebody else raise your kids instead of you being home? Wouldn't it be nice if you can do that? And again, you're trying to, what are the implications of not being able to do certain things? And the last part is a need payoff. You want to start moving it in the positive direction. What if you could do that? What would happen if you could generate enough revenue? What if there was a way to generate additional income so you can put that in the bank account and maybe begin to build that little nest egg for your kids to go to college? Get the idea? So situation, what are the problems? Implication, need payoff. Now, just to prove to you, I don't know if I said this last week, and I want you to register. I want you to write this phrase down. If you want to be an average salesperson, you practice what to say. Average salespeople practice what to say. Professional salespeople, the best of the best, practice what to ask. See the difference? Average salespeople practice what to say. Professionals, the best of the best, practice what to ask. So let me do this experiment with you. I don't know if I did this with you last time. I don't think so. But I want to prove a point to you. I want to prove a point that if I can ask the right questions, I can have you arrive at a conclusion I've already predetermined. Let me say it slowly. If I ask a sequence of questions I can actually guide your answer or have you arrive at a conclusion that I've already predetermined. Now, what does that mean? Here's what I want you to do. Does everybody have a pen in front of them? Pen and paper, yes?
Yes.
All right, here's what I want you to do. Follow along. I want you to write a number down between 2 and 10. Go ahead and write a number down between 2 and 10. Just nod your head if you got it, okay? Now take that number and multiply it by 9. Go ahead and multiply it by 9. You should now have a 2-digit number. Shake your head if you have a 2-digit number, right? Take those 2 digits, add them together. You should have a single-digit number. You have the single-digit number. All right, now do me a favor. Subtract the number 5 from that number. If you subtract 5, you should have a new single-digit number. Yes? All right, now look at that number. That number represents a letter of the alphabet. If it's a 1, that's A. 2, it's B. 3, C, 4, D, 5, E. Do me a favor, write down the letter it corresponds to. Does everybody have the letter? Just nod. All right, now listen carefully. This is an important question. I want you to think of a European country that begins with that letter. Go ahead and write that country down. Do you have it? Just nod. Yes? A European country, Tony, that begins with that letter. Give us some thought.
Okay.
All right. Some of you have it. All right. Now, look at the second letter in that country. For those of you who come up with the country, look at the second letter in that country. Got it? Look at the second letter and think of a large land mammal that begins with that letter. Think of a large land mammal that begins with that letter. Do you have it? Yes? Now, also write down the color of that mammal. Go ahead and write down the color of that mammal. Now, for those of you who made it all the way through the gauntlet, does the following make sense? There are no great elephants in Denmark. Who had that? Who had Denmark? Who had elephant? Just give me the thumbs up on the camera, man. All right, there you go. Yeah? Tony, yes? Tony, you look stunned. Yes? Tony, just nod.
Yeah.
There are no great elephants in Denmark, right? Can everybody get that? Now, if you followed along, what I did is I asked you a sequence of questions, and you came up with a conclusion I already predetermined. I guided you to Denmark, if you followed along. I guided you to the elephant, and I guided you to the color. Now, I don't want to go into details how I did this, but basically by asking a sequence of questions, I can have you arrive at a conclusion. I can guide your mindset. Is everybody with me on that? So one of the things that I want you to really register up here is that instead of practicing what to say about Plexus, I want you to start thinking about what questions can I ask during the conversation that really gets people to think not only about their health, but about their income. Where they're going with their income. What do they plan to do? What if you can't do this? Because when we begin to ask these questions, it really brings it front of center. Just brings it right to the front, and they begin to think about it. Because sometimes what happens is you're talking to a customer, and if they're not thinking about the problems, they're not listening to you. But as soon as I can create that interest, create those problems, they start thinking about how do I pay off? How do I pay for this? How do I do this? How can I stay home? Everybody with me? Just kind of nod. Yep. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We've gone through this whole thing. We've set up the scenario. We know who we're talking to, and we know that we have to ask the right questions, right? The situation, find out what the problems are, what are the implications of not taking care of those problems, and then begin to talk about the need payoff. What if you could do this? What if you could do that? And eventually somebody's going to say, well, tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing, Tony. Tell me what you're doing, Kathy. Tell me what you're doing. And this is where we begin to what? Pivot, which is where we left it last time, right? Now, I also asked everybody to kind of do some homework. You should have reviewed the book Response Block Selling. Can I assume that some of you did?
Yes.
Come on now? All right. Response Block Selling, and I'll go a brief overview if you haven't. And we also had 4 objections we were going to cover. One was we were talking to a family member. The one objection people have is I've tried all that. It doesn't work for me. The second was I just want to wait and see to see if it works. The third one was everybody that's making money has already gotten in. It's too late to start now. That was the other objection. Number 4 is I'm not a salesperson, right? And then I ask you to come up with a fifth objection, right? Now, these are the objections your customers are going to typically have. In this scenario, we're talking about a family member, okay? In this scenario, we're talking about a family member. So here's what I want to do now. I want to talk about what happens mentally to somebody when you're talking to them. Now, follow this graph. It's a very simple graph. When you start talking to somebody, and I'll just draw the line across, and hopefully I'll try to draw it big, because Tony says I got to draw, get a better marker. Let's say that I start talking to somebody one-on-one right now. And as soon as I start talking about business and Plexus, I'm going to say that their resistance, their R, is going to be probably at 100%, right? Because most people don't want to be sold, right? So the resistance is always going to be high. So our job, and let's say, Tony, on average, how much time do you think you spend with somebody one-on-one talking about the products? 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Yeah, an average, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so that means that in this time frame, I'll just write 30, okay? So the resistance is high when we first start. And so what we want to do is, here's the line. What we want to do is reduce the resistance within that 30 minutes so that somewhere along here there's a magic buy. You know what I mean? I buy into what you're saying. So our job is to really reduce that resistance within that 30-minute time frame. Get the idea? This is the model I always want you to have in your head. So now, how do you reduce resistance? Now, this is great because not only does it work one-on-one, it also works one to a group. Because every time even I address a group, I know that they have reasons why they don't want to listen to me. I have reasons why they don't want to pay attention. I have reasons why. They have reasons why they don't want to buy from me. So my job is to really reduce that resistance over time within that 30-minute period, okay? If you buy that, which you should, what we're going to do is I'm going to use this upside-down triangle, and that means the upside-down triangle is an objection they have, okay? Objection number 1, they're going to have objection number 2, objection number 3, objection number 4, and hopefully by the time I get to objection number 5, they're going to buy into what we have to offer, okay? That's the model I need you to have in your head. When you look at all my presentations that I do, this is the model I follow. So again, repeating one more time because I want to make sure everybody gets this. When we first start a conversation, when we pivot, resistance is still high. You can say it's 100, you can say it's 90. Nonetheless, it's high. And what we want to do is now we know that we're going to have a 30-minute conversation. We know what the situation, we know what the problems are, we know what the implications are. We know how to pivot for the need, right, to give them what they want. Now we pivot. But now we have 30 minutes to reduce that resistance. And the best way to reduce the resistance is slowly over time. Now, we're going to talk about how do you block objections. Now, let me slow down here because this is important. Most salespeople have been taught to overcome the objection, right? Overcome the objection. But if you read the book, which I trust you did, if you read the book, that one right there, Response Block Selling, you know that if somebody verbalizes an objection, you're too expensive, it's too late to get started right now, as soon as they verbalize it, they've taken a position. And because they've taken a position, now you have to try to overcome that resistance. And if you're in a position of explaining, guess what? It's not going to work. So we don't want people to verbalize an objection because they'll stick to that position. When somebody says, that's too expensive, that means they've taken a position, and now we have to overcome that objection. And studies have shown that it's very difficult to overcome an objection when somebody's already stated it. So the key here, then, is to block the objection while it's still where? In their head. While it's still up here. How do we do that? Very simple. In the book Response Block Selling, I showed you that what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the objection, because if we introduce the objection, we can control it, and we can also block it and dispose of it, okay? So simply said this, never wait for your client, potential client, to raise an objection. What you want to do is be proactive, raise the objection, then block it. Because again, if you block it, it's still up here, and they're more likely to say, yeah, I agree with you. But once they verbalize it, you're too expensive, the chances of overcoming that objection are not good. So in a nutshell, we want to block the objections in their head. Now it's interesting because we can sit here, and I bet as a group, if we were in the same room, we can list out, if you're talking to a family member, what are the typical objections you're going to get. And the typical objections typically range between 3 and 5 major objections. Does anybody disagree with that? Yes or no? Just give me a head nod, yes or no if you agree. On average, you're only going to have about 3 to 5 objections. And so if we can list out all the objections, if we were in a room together, what I would do with you guys as a team is I would list out, let's go through the 5 objections we're going to get within that 30-minute time frame. What are the 3 to 5 objections we're going to get within that 30-minute time frame? Now, let me just put a little small note here. What I'm teaching you right now not only works for business, not only works for one-on-one conversations at a personal level, I even teach this for people who do interviews. Because, again, there's a buyer and a seller, right? The interviewer is the client. The actual interviewee is trying to sell themselves on the other person. So what you do is you get the interviewee to really raise the objections that the interviewer has. Let's go back to selling again. 3 to 5 objections customers typically have. Because they have 3 to 5 objections, if we plan it out, much like I just did the whole 9 example with you about the gray elephants in Denmark, if I know what the 5 objections are, then what I'm going to do is strategically block each of these one at a time. So now let me give it to you graphically because I want to make sure you're following me, okay? Okay, so let's go. Let me erase this one more time. And Tony, if it's too small, let me know, okay?
Sure will.
All right, so let's do this slowly. I'm going to do it in huge letters. You can all see it. So, that's as big as I can get it, Tony. Here's resistance, right? When we first start talking, we got 30 minutes to chat. 30 minutes in our conversation. 30 minutes. Now, what we want to do is, let's go through the objections we already have. Objection number 1, under Tony's notes, under family members, the first one was, I've tried all that, it doesn't work for me. In fact, I think we actually ranked them. Number 1 objection was, I'm not a salesperson, right? So now, what I want to do is somewhere within, let's say, the 5-minute mark. I'm just going to call it 5, okay? By the way, that's an arbitrary number, okay? Just 5 minutes. What I want to do is I want to block that first objection. And the first objection I'm going to block is, I'm not a salesperson. Get the idea? Everybody with me? Yeah. The second objection we want to block is, I believe number 2 was, I'll just wait and see to see if it works. So then the second objection I want to block is, I'll just wait and see. The third objection we had was, I've tried it, doesn't work. Okay? So number 3 was, DW doesn't work for me. The fourth objection is that too late, right? Fourth objection is too late. And the last one is the one that you came up with, whatever that is. And probably is going to be something maybe about price, too expensive. Now's not a good time, blah, 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 whatever it may be, right? So those are it. So now that we know that these are the 5 objections, what I want to do is plan out strategically, what are we going to say? What are we going to say during these 30 minutes? And as we're talking, what we're going to do is we're going to block each of these objections systematically. And if you do this right, what will happen is that the resistance will what? Go down. Now, listen carefully. Just because I put this in this order, 1, I'm not a salesperson. 2, I'll just wait. 3, doesn't work. 4, too late to get in. 5, whatever it may be. Just because I have them in this order doesn't mean you have to follow the order. What may happen is during your conversations, you may realize that, you know what, one of the first objections I have to block is that it's not too late. Get the idea? Maybe that's one of the first objections I should block. And so what you'll do is you'll swap this over here, maybe move this one over there. Get the idea? So think of this as 5 cards, and what you're going to do is shuffle them around till it feels good to you. And this is the important piece, because I'm going to lay out how to block each one. It is up to you to determine what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and in what order you're going to say it. Because what will happen, and it happens to me all the time, is that I'm talking to a customer and I realize that the first thing I need to get rid of is that it's not too late. That it's not too late to get in. That's one of the first things I'm going to block. So I say, let me block that one first. Okay? So now that we know that this is the sequence we're going to use, so again, mindset, one-on-one, family member, they spilled their guts. I know the situation. I know the problems. I know the implications. They understand the implications. They're looking for a solution. They're going to say, what do you do, Kathy? What do you do, Tony? Okay, so what we're going to do is turn that around, and then we're going to pivot. But again, now we're going to pivot, and as we start talking, we're also going to block objections as we go through. That's what I'm doing. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I want you guys to really get this, okay? Because this is so good. This has made me so much money, it isn't funny. So this stuff works. It's a real deal. All right, let me erase this. And as you see, I got my squirt bottle. By the way, in case you wanted to see that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Everybody got that model down? I hope you did, because it's gone. Now, if you went through my response block selling, if you went through the book, here's what you should have. In there, I drew a giant triangle. In fact, let me set up the story, because there's a story behind the book. If you read the book, it's a true story that's in the book, by the way. Years ago, a company called me up and says, Victor, we wanted you to do some presentations in front of a group. We want you to talk to them, present to them. And long story short, I wasn't closing a lot of deals from the front of the room. You know, audience, I wasn't closing enough deals. Finally, this guy named Clint said to me, I asked him to come see me. He said, Victor, you're doing it wrong. I said, what am I doing wrong? He says, here's what you're doing wrong. And this was one of the most important phrases I've ever heard. He goes, your audience has objections in their head. Your job is to block those objections. And this is what he did. Your idea is to block those objections and tie them down. And I said, well, how do you do that? He goes, I don't know. You got to figure it out, Victor. And so eventually, over time, I came up with this model. And then I started implementing the model. And so I went from closing, I think, 14, 15, 16, 17% of deals to about 50% of my deals, which represented a whole lot of money, right? So let's go through this response block structure I began to use. Remember the 5 triangles, folks? Now let's zoom in and look at the first one. And the first one we're going to talk about is, I'm not a salesperson, right? So now let's go through the response block structure that's in the book. The first thing you want to do is, you know what the objection is. The objection is, I'll write big, is I'm not a salesperson, right? Yes? Cool? Now, that's the objection. That's the objection number 1. Tony, is that big enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's the first objection. So now we know that that's the first thing they're going to object to. So what we're going to do is we're going to block that objection. Here's how you block the objection. The best way to block an objection is to raise the objection. Because when you raise the objection, you control the objection. So what you're going to do is raise the objection. That's the big raise, right? Then the second part, well, let me go through it slowly. How would you raise this objection? So let's see if we can get somebody besides Tony. Kathy, I know you're not there. I think your husband's there. Kathy, chime in. How would you raise the objection if you read the book? How would you raise that objection? You're in a conversation. How would you raise the objection? Okay, anybody chime in. Who's bold?
Okay.
Okay. How would you raise the objection? What would you say?
What's the objection again?
The objection is, I'm not a salesperson.
Well, at work, I used a bunch of guys at work have bought these boots. I was like, well, this boot called King Boots. They said, hey, I'm not a salesperson. Look, half the shop is wearing these boots, so they liked them. Just you like this product, share it.
Too much information. Too much information. We're going to simplify this so anybody can use this. By the way, I don't disagree with your strategy, but imagine you're talking one-on-one to somebody, and you know the objection is, I'm not in sales. So following the response block structure, here's what you would do. And again, after a while, it becomes so programmed, easy to do. What you want to do is you want to raise the objection yourself, because if you raise the objection, you control the objection. So what I would say at the beginning, somewhere in the beginning of the conversation, I'll say, Susan. Now, many people tell me, I'll just say this out, many people tell me I'm not a salesperson, right? Now, if I just say that, I'm talking to Susan, Susan, look, many people tell me that they're not in sales, which is one of the reasons they would never get involved with this type of product. What did I just do with that simple statement? I raised the objection. Okay? As soon as I said, many people tell me that not, many people like you tell me, I've never been a salesperson. I'm not in sales. I'm not a salesperson. And I can understand that. What I just did in that simple phrase was I've raised the objection. And then I offer to resolve it. And then I can say something like this. The offer is something like this. It's almost like saying, let me show you. The offer, so many people tell me that they're not in sales, that they're not a salesperson. But then I say something like this, but if I can show you that you don't have to be in sales, would you at least be open to listening to me? Okay? Would you at least be open to listening? Because this is not about sales. Now, stop right there. I just raised the objection about most people think they have to be in sales and they really don't. And I want you to understand, and I hear you. If I raise the objection, what is the other person thinking? What is the other person I'm talking to thinking when I raise the objection? They're thinking, I'm glad he said it because I didn't want to say it. Because I was too embarrassed to say it. Okay? So by raising the objection, I said many people tell me that they, again, raise the objection. Many people tell me that when they look at a company like Plexus, that they have to be in sales and they've never been in sales. And I can understand that because everybody thinks they have to be in sales. But if I can show you this is really not about selling. It's more about sharing. Would you at least be open to the idea of what we have to offer? Or if I can show you that this is not selling, would you at least look at it? Whatever it is, it's always about the objection. And then what I would then do is demo. Right? This is where you have to show them something. This is where you have to prove something. My favorite example here on the demo that you don't have to be in sales is the one I gave you last week. Do you remember the one last week when I said you go to a great restaurant? Remember, you go to a great restaurant. When you go to a great restaurant, it's fantastic food, and what's the first thing you do? You get on the phone and you start what? Telling your friend about this, and all you're doing is sharing. So you can actually tell that story as an example. Get the idea? That's your example. That's your demo. Now you're showing them that you really don't have to be. It's all about sharing information. So now, last but not least, and I'll go through this slowly again. But let me just go all the way through it one time. The tie down. Now listen carefully. This is the important piece. The tie down is basically getting them to agree that you don't have to be in sales. The tie down is getting them to agree that you don't have to be in sales. And again, the first time you see this, it looks like it's too much. But I'm telling you, with a little practice, it becomes so habitual that it's so easy to implement. So the tie down is something like this. You want them to say, yeah, you're right. It's not that hard being a salesperson. I don't have to be a salesperson. Let me walk you through it. I'm going to walk through the whole conversation off the top of my head, okay? So if I'm talking to somebody, I'm talking about Plexus, I've now pivoted, I've now just talked about the general information about who we are, I'll say something like this. Now, Susan, many people like you tell me that the reason they don't do something like this is because they believe that they're not salespeople. Raise the objection, right? But if I can show you this is really not about sales, it's beyond sales. It's something actually much simpler than that. For example, demo. Did you ever go to a restaurant and right? And at the end, what are you doing? Sharing. Then I say something to tie down is, can you now see that really this business isn't about sharing, it's about selling, it's really about sharing. Can you now see that? And then I pause and I wait for them to say, yeah, I get that. As soon as they say yes, I get it, what you've just done psychologically is that you've nullified that objection. You've essentially blocked it. Because as soon as they say, yeah, you're right, I can see that it's not about sales. Because you've done this way, you just block that objection. Go back to our graphic. Because I've done that, if I overlay my graphic here at 100%, can't see that. If my graphics, if I overlay my line, they were at 100% resistance. If I've just done that, I've brought them down maybe that much. Okay? But I've only blocked, what? One objection. That's all I've done. Everybody with me so far? So now it's the beginning of a conversation, because what you're going to see psychologically is that the person is now starting to be less resistant. And you'll see this all the time. It's the coolest system to actually implement because it always works. Any questions so far? Did I go through that too quickly? Should I go through it faster, slower? Give me feedback, guys. I feel so alone in my office right now.
I got it. Totally got it.
Good.
Stephanie?
I'm good.
Cool.
You're right on key, Victor.
All right.
I love it. Very simple and very good.
Okay, so that's the first objection. So now, let's go to the second objection. And objection number 2 was, I'll just wait to see if it works. I'll just wait to see if it works, right? So this is the wait and see. Okay? Now, again, we have to what? Raise the objection, offer to resolve it, then we have to demo something, show them something to prove our point. This proves a point all the time, and then get them to agree. That's the tie down, okay? Are you with me? So the objection is wait and see. So how would you block wait and see? Somebody says, you know what, I'm just going to wait and see. How would you raise that objection? We've talked about you don't have to be a salesperson. Conversation. Now, in your head, you know that you have to block the objection.
I've already had several people tell me that they were just going to wait and see.
Okay? But remember, you have to block the objection that's in their head. Right? And the objection is, they're going to say, I'm going to wait and see. You don't want them to say, look, I'm going to wait and see. What would you say to raise the objection to control it? And it's very simple, not complicated. And again, use your own words. I'm just giving you mine for now, okay? But here's what I would say. Now, again, when I show this opportunity to other people like yourself, one of the things I often hear is, maybe I'll just wait and see. Okay? Maybe I'll just wait and see. Notice what I just did. I inserted the objection into the conversation. So again, let me repeat that. I'm talking, I've just blocked the first objection, now we chit-chat, and I show them a couple of things. I said, now one of the things, Susan, you probably have in your head right now, is that you're probably thinking, you know what, I'll just wait and see. You see how casual that was? You see how nice and casual that was? See, Susan, many people tell me they just want to wait and see. And you may be one of those people. They just say, you know what, I'm just going to wait and see. And again, all I did was raise the objection. Okay, so again, people tell me, like yourself, that they just want to wait and see. When I show them something like this, the first thing I usually get is, you know what, I'm just going to wait and see. And then you got to offer to resolve this dilemma. And I usually like to start this thing with the but all the time. But if I can show you why waiting long, I guess if I can show you, here's a good formula. If I can show you that taking action is better than waiting, would you be open to it? Again, you got to find your own words. I can't help you with that part. It's got to feel comfortable coming from you. But notice what I'm doing. I raise the objection, and then, but if I can show you, if I can explain to you why it's in your best interest not to wait, I can say, would you at least consider what I'm saying? Would you at least consider looking at this? Would you at least consider thinking about this? And all they're going to do is say, yeah. And that's basically permission for you to continue forward. And so now, what would you show somebody to show? What would you show them to prove to tell them that they shouldn't wait? What would you show them? If I wanted to prove to you, to show you something that, you know what, you can't wait, that you can't wait, what would I show them? What could I show them? What could I tell them? What could I illustrate for them? Any suggestions? If I wanted to push you forward and said, you know what, you don't want to wait, let me show you why. Okay, that's the offer here. Let me show you why you don't want to wait. What would be a good reason for them not to wait? Anyone?
I'm sorry, I was muted. If no one else has an answer, I do. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So what I always use in that sense is, and this is what I actually wrote for my answer, is I know people, many people that say, I'll wait to see your success, or I'll wait and see if so and so's successful. But my response to them is always, how is that going to make you feel to see your friends to go on and be successful without you?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it. I mean, it's happened with me, and so I have that as an example to use at this point. But
I would use that, Tony. I would use that more in the offer stage.
okay.
You know what I mean? I said, I want you to think about, many people tell me that it's better to wait. And I'll just tell you two things. The first one is what you just said, right? Let me tell you about people who didn't wait. How did you phrase that, Tony? How did you phrase that?
I know many people that say they're going to wait for the success of others, but how is that going to make you feel for your friends to become successful without you?
Okay, so you can also say, I said, tell me they're going to wait like yourself. One is that when they say they wait, they've been waiting all their lives, and they never take action.
Mm-hmm.
I said, second, how are you going to feel? The question you should ask yourself is, how are you going to feel when somebody who didn't wait actually takes action? But let me give you still have to give them something, you know what I mean? That's why I would put that here in the offer part, because that's a nice little term. But on the demo part, what I would do, I don't know if you have this, I said, let me give you an example of somebody who said they wanted to wait. You know what I mean? Find a way to contrast it. For example, do you guys have a story, a testimonial of somebody who in 1 year did exceptionally well? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
You do, right? So then what I would say, I would, right here, you can wait. I hear that all the time. But, how long are you going to wait? How are you going to feel when somebody else who didn't wait makes it? And then I would pivot, transition and say, let me give you an example of two people. I said, here's, I don't know, Bob, right? Bob was the same way. Bob initially said, I'm just going to wait. But he took the plunge. Now, in the first 3 months, here's what he made. Second 3 months, here's what he made, right? So forth and so on. And you say, at the end of the year, and find a number that's not crazy. That's the other thing I want to emphasize. When you do the demo piece here, which is really the demo is the show and tell. When you do the show and tell, especially the show here, don't pick something astronomical. I'm talking about just give me somebody who's worked 2 hours extra every day, and maybe at the end of the month he's generating $2,000, even $1,000. Something that's within the realm of their possibility. Because if I say, Bob's been at it for a year and he's now making $50,000 a month, my brain says, bull, that doesn't work. But if he's only doing 2 hours, and then I say times 20 days, working days, he's putting in an extra 40 hours, right? Or even less than that, 20 hours, whatever it may be, and he's making about, $1,000 to $2,000 a month. Now, I don't know if that's a lot of money to you. I don't know what the number is, okay, guys? So I'm just throwing this number out here. So don't listen to my numbers. You have to find a number that you think your client will believe. So if you're talking to somebody who a lot of money is $500 a month extra, 500, then you don't want to throw out 10,000. You want to throw the 500 to $1,000 a month, right? If you find somebody who's making $3,000, $4,000, and that's kind of their range and what they're looking for, then that's what you talk about. And then what I would do is, this is Bob, and then the question you have is, how long did it take him to get that number? It took him about 6 months to get to that number, and then within a year he was doing that much. So in about 6 months he was doing $500 a month. Within a year he was doing about $1,000. Now that's just the first year. Now let me tell you about his friend, Joe. Joe is still what? Waiting. You know what I mean? And he's not making anything else. See, most people don't believe that's possible. So would you agree that you can wait, but the other alternative is to actually do something? And then you get them to agree, right? Or you can say, I said, if you wait, what are you waiting for? That's where you can ask for clarification. Tell me what you're waiting for. Are you waiting for proof? Because you can ask that question right here. When somebody says, no, I'm still waiting, I said, well, tell me what you're waiting for. What do you think people would say if you asked that question?
I don't know.
Huh? If you simply ask the people, say, if somebody just really pushed hard and says, no, I'm just going to wait. Well, tell me what you're waiting for. I just want to understand. I want to see if it works. I said, well, let me go ahead and show you examples of people who've made this work. And if they still don't buy it, I said, can you now see how not wait? And they still say, no, I still want to wait. Well, there must be something else. So I just showed you that it is possible to make money. I said, there must be something else. Okay, if this process doesn't work, there's got to be something there that's holding them back. Okay? And I would ask them, I said, what are you waiting for? And it's interesting. By the way, has anybody asked that question? And if you've asked that question, what has been the response? Or is it just a damn good question?
I've actually never asked it, but my friend Celeste has, and she's on. Celeste?
I hear.
Just the way you said that, Celeste. I'm here.
She's got a friend who's waiting, and I just don't know if she's ever asked her what she's waiting for.
I have to think. I'm on the spot.
Okay. And maybe you've never asked her what she's waiting for, and that's just the question. Maybe you can just ask her what she's waiting for, because she's waiting to see, she's waiting to see her success.
Right. And by the way, and people, again, that's a very good objection, by the way, because people want to say, I'm just going to wait to see if you're successful. Okay? And this is where you have to have a story. So what's your story? If somebody says, well, I'm just waiting for you to be successful. I said, and then I would turn it around. I said, that's exactly the same thing I said when somebody presented me the opportunity. But again, I realized I can sit here and wait, but nothing's going to happen. Again, any way you want to turn it around. But let's get back to the sequence here, okay, because I added the mix here. So again, wait and see. Many people tell me they just want to wait and see, and I can understand that. But if I can show you that many people who wait never really get around to doing it, or how would you feel if somebody else did this and got ahead of you? But the one I would use right here, I said, let me show you what happens to people who wait versus people who don't wait. I said, let me tell you about Bob. Bob was the same way. When he first saw the opportunity, it's the same thing. He said, Victor, he says, I'm just going to wait and see. With a little convincing, I told Bob, I said, here, you can do it. I said, let's da-da-da. And Bob started doing it. And so then Joe could just purely wait. And just, this is a contrast effect. All right? Any questions? Tony, I saw you laughing at something. Hit me.
No.
Okay. Now, am I on track? Am I off track?
No, you're way on track.
Right on track.
The thing is, whether you agree with what I'm saying or how I'm saying it, this is the dialogue you have to have down. This is the stuff that you have to have that comes like this. So when people ask you these questions, you can turn. That's why this at least gives you the structure to think about what you have to say, how you have to say it. Because I want you to think about this piece. The demo piece, the show and tell, show them something, is really important. Because unless you can show them something, this is proof. Right here, this is proof. Okay? And then, it depends on how tough you want to be on somebody, but if somebody were to tell me, even after all this, I walked them through the example of Bob versus Joe, I said, can you now see why it's not worth waiting? And he says, no, Victor, I'll still wait. Then, at that point, is when I would say, well, tell me what you're waiting for. I said, I want to understand what you're waiting for. I said, you want to wait for my success. One of the things I said, you can wait for me to be successful. I said, but got to understand one thing. I said, you and I can start out at the same time. How we approach the business is going to be different. At the end of the day, you actually may be more successful than me, and I would support that. So don't wait for me. Okay? Get the idea? What are the words that you're going to use? This is the stuff that I work on a lot. I'm always writing stuff out because I'm always asking myself, how do I say it? How do I convince them? How do I turn the conversation? How do I shift the conversation? How do I pivot the conversation all the time? So now, if we buy into this, if you got the sequence down, again, the show and tell, the demo piece is the most important part. Then again, we go back to the curve again, the line. If you've done it the right way, what's going to happen now is that you block the one objection to, and you should have less resistance now. And by the way, what will happen is you'll feel it. You will really feel it in the conversation. You'll feel people, because every time I raise an objection you have in your head, you actually feel more comfortable. Because your brain is saying, well, I'm glad he brought it up. Oh, I'm glad he brought that up, because I didn't want to bring it up. So by you raising the objections that they already have in their head, you're actually helping them. You're making them feel more comfortable, which is building credibility and rapport. Because people always ask me, Victor, how do you build rapport? You build rapport when you understand what's in people's heads. And if I understand your objections and I start addressing them, guess what? We've all been to the store, to give you a solid example, where they're presenting something to you, right? It's an offer, it's a product, maybe, I don't know, remodeling the bathroom or doing something, and you want to ask the question, how much, right? And then they say it includes this, and in your brain you're going, but how much? But you don't want to ask. You don't know how to ask. You're a little timid. But if somebody says to you, let me walk you through the pricing so you'll see how much this costs and see what fits for you, if somebody says that to you, immediately your brain says, phew, I'm glad he's going to talk about price because I didn't really want to bring it up. That's how people feel when you handle the objections. When you handle the objections, that's exactly how they feel. By raising the objections before they raise them, they actually feel more comfortable. That's the power behind this. So let's go to the third objection, which is, what was the third objection? Doesn't work for me. Be a good one? Yeah, that's always a solid one in this business, right? That doesn't work for me. All right. All right, does anybody want to take a shot at this one? Now remember, the objection is, doesn't work for me. Doesn't work. Now, I'm tired of giving you the answers. You guys are going to give me answers now. I'm tired of you guys. You hear me? I'm tired of all you guys. You're giving me answers now. Okay? Tired of this.
But I'm going to give someone else the opportunity.
All right, so, how do we raise an objection? It's a simple statement. Somebody's thinking, that doesn't work. I've tried it in the past. What would you say? Tony, pick somebody. Single somebody out there, Tony.
Gigi.
Gigi, kick in. Just raise the objection. All I want you to do is raise that objection. You're talking to somebody, and you know in their head, they're saying, I don't think this will work for me. I've tried that in the past. It doesn't work for me. What would you say? How would you raise the objection, Gigi?
She's muted.
Okay. Gigi, come on.
Lori, you want to take that?
Okay, I see a lot of mouths moving, but man, there's like nothing coming out the other side of this pipe.
Stephanie?
Well, I wrote down, yes, I've heard from several people that have said it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's it. It's something.
Plain and simple.
And I would just change the words a little bit, like I've heard from several people, because you just validated their fears. Oh yeah, it doesn't work. See, I told you, it doesn't work for them either, right? So you want to say, one of the things you may be thinking is, I've tried this in the past, but it doesn't work for me. See, just that little word change right there, because as soon as you say, I heard from other people, you just basically validated the fears. And by the way, I'm glad you brought it up like that, because just that simple turn of the phrase turns people off. Just those simple words, just bam, shuts them down. So by simply saying is, you may be thinking, you've tried this in the past, and it didn't work for you. And I can understand that. And they may actually go, yeah, I have. And so that's all I did was raise the objection right now, right? Now, keep going. Now, how do you offer to resolve it? How would you offer to resolve this one? Stephanie?
Sorry, I was writing notes.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's cool.
You really got me to rethinking about the offers to resolve.
Okay, so we've raised the objection. You may be thinking that you tried something like this in the past and it hasn't worked for you. But if, or you can say something like this. Let me help you out. You can say something, you may have tried something like this in the past and it hasn't worked for you. I can understand that. Let me show you the system we've put in place, the process we've put in place to make sure that it doesn't happen to people. Something like that. Get the idea? And so if I say something like that, well, let me show you what we've put in place that has been very successful for people who are just starting out or getting in the first time, whatever it may be. Get the idea? Or people who, so again, you may be thinking, doesn't work for you. You've tried this in the past. Let me show you what we're doing for people to ensure that they have a high probability of success, and it does work for them. Get the idea? See how I'm playing with the words there? That's all I'm doing. I'm just playing with the words. And so I can say, so now because I said I'm going to show them something, what would you show them? Stephanie, what would you show them? What would be a good demo? So the opening line would be something like, you may be thinking, this hasn't worked for you in the past, you're afraid to try it again, whatever it may be. I said, but let me show you what we've done to help people like yourselves increase your probability of success. Let me show you. What would you show? What would you show?
May I answer?
Please.
I have brought up several times since we've been in it for a couple of years that some have actually left and came back and were very excited and motivated about the new products.
Doesn't make me feel good. Doesn't make me feel good. I'm still hurting here. By the way, I like what you said, but in the demo piece here, and by the way, I hope you guys don't mind me being tough with you guys just a little bit, because I really want you to be successful. That's fine, but remember, I'm afraid this hasn't worked for me in the past. What could you show me? Forget about what other people, I don't care about other people. What could you show me to make me feel that maybe this will be different?
Would this be a place where we would actually show them a current plan of action that we're working on, that we're getting success with? Like
Say that again, Tony?
A simple plan of action that we are working with our current people on that we're having success with. It's a simple plan, perfect 10 plan.
Okay.
It's a plan of action.
I like that, because now you're showing us, let me show you what we do. As soon as you join us, here's what we're going to do to increase your chances of making it work for you. The first thing we do is we do this, and it's going to be something simple. The second thing we do is this, and maybe the third thing we do is that. We then assign you somebody who's da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Right?
Right.
And so once we do this, you're going to learn this. Then the second phase, first we teach you about the products, so you make sure you understand the products. Second, we've been working with this great guy, Victor Antonio. Oh my God, he's just fantastic. I love him. His sales process is phenomenal. It's like utopian Shangri-La and something like that, right? And once you have that, you're going to say, hey, you're a champion. And then what we're going to do, but we're also going to assign you somebody who's actually generating revenue, who's going to go on visits with you, whatever you want to say here. Deborah, do you see that, Deborah?
Oh, yes, yes. I wanted a polished up version of that, yes.
Yeah, because now you're showing me. It's like you're giving me tools. And all of a sudden, I feel comfortable. I'm starting to feel comfortable. Then to tie down that objection. Can you now see? Now here's where you do that. Can you now see? The tie down would be right here, and I would say something like, can you now see how having a system in place, having a process like ours, having a da-da-da-da-da will ensure that this time the chances of you making it work are much higher. And all you're waiting for them to say, what is it? Yeah, I can see it. You just tied down that objection.
Yes.
And again, the curve goes down again, resistance goes down a little bit. Deborah, do you have a question?
No, total agreement.
Okay. Cool so far? Yes, no? Feedback?
I think it's great.
Like I said, I think this is the part of sales. They did a study that said on average 13% of the population, this is a study done by Sales Benchmark Index, and what they did is a study, and they said 13% of the population of salespeople are natural-born salespeople. 13%, that's it. The other 87%, like us, we have to work at being this. And this is what most people don't understand, that the majority of people have to practice this stuff and be very sequential in how they do it. So if you saw how I prepare for a presentation, you would see it's a lot of this stuff, the sequencing that goes on. So cool? All right, we got 2 more objections, right? We got number 4 and then the wild card. Number 4. All right, Deborah, get ready, Deborah. Deborah, you there?
I'm here.
All right, don't be running on me now.
I'm about to.
Yourself.
All right. Deborah, we're going to handle objection number 4 now. Objection number 4 is everyone's making the money, got in when it was new. It's too late to start now. So you're going to handle the too late objection. It's too late to get in. All the gold has been mined, right? And so give you a moment to think about what you're going to say here. All right. Now, Deborah, don't overthink the process. Do not overthink the process. Do not overthink the process. How would you just simply raise the objection in the conversation? So
well, I like to know other points you may be thinking, you know, because sometimes it'll come up in their comments.
Mm-hmm.
You may be thinking that it's too late.
Yes. See how simple it was? That's it. I said, now, one of the things that you may be thinking, okay, so maybe thinking, it's what? Too late, right? Maybe thinking it's too late. Just
and I actually get that a lot because they know that I've been doing this for 3 years, that it has been long.
Absolutely. So just saying it like that, see how simple that statement was? You just raised the objection. Now, you have to offer to resolve that objection. It's almost like, but if I can show you, let me show you, what would you say? And you might
my first instinct is to, if I can show you just how easy it is to make money quickly, or maybe I could fine-tune the way that's worded, but finding those few customers and the money it can generate.
No. As soon as you said that, it sounded so salesy. I started cringing.
Polish it up for me.
Yeah, no. I'm putting you on the spot. We're having fun here. Because as soon as you sound like, hey, let me just show you how everybody else is making money, woohoo, everybody's like, ah. See, what you want to do is, you may be thinking that it's too late to get in. If you had to show me, Deborah, that it's not too late to get in, what would you show me? What would you show me? What would you show to prove to me that it's not too late? I'm jumping to the demo piece. I'm jumping to the proof piece. What would you show me? Somebody help her out if she doesn't have it. What would you show me that it's not too late, to prove to me that it's not too late?
I can tell you how my friend Renee started. Last month was her first active month at working her business, and she made $800.
Okay. So your proof point could be, so if you know that you're going to show a small case study, right? We'll just call that a miniature case study, right? Of somebody who started 1 month ago, right? Going back to you, Deborah.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that I'm going to go talk about this person who started a month ago, then let's do it again. Raise the objection. You know, you may be thinking that it's too late to get in.
Mm-hmm.
The offer may be as simple as, let me just show you somebody who started last month to prove to you that it's not too late. So let me just talk about da-da-da-da-da-da. Get the idea?
Yes.
Man, see how simple that is? You don't have to overcomplicate this stuff. And maybe it's better, you guys are teaching me something right now, whether you know it or not. What you're teaching me is that it's better to think about the demo part first, because it makes the offer easier. Because as soon as we know that we're going to show them this, it's how do you tee this up? Does that make sense?
We can help you, Victor.
Yeah, see, I need help. I need a lot of help. So, okay, so then, all right, Deborah, drum roll.
Yeah, I do like more specific. I do like that.
Yeah, and because it's very concrete. Remember, what you're doing right here is called social proof. What you're doing is showing them something that they can relate to. And then, Tony, you said $800 a month. I mean, like, okay, I can grab that number. That number just, I can grab that. That's believable to me. And that's what you have to be aware of. As soon as you start talking about, let's use our friend Celeste, you know, the ultimate salesperson, right, who's making so much money. Well, here's Celeste. She's making $25,000, $50,000, whatever she makes a month. As soon as you say that, my brain will shut down. Because I'm just trying to pay the bills for next month. I'm just trying to generate $500, and you're talking about 20, 50, whatever it is, whatever she makes. I'm going, I can't function. I don't believe you. And so now, you may be thinking that it's too late to get it, but if I can show you, I said, let me just go, and this time you don't even have to show, don't even ask, just say, let me show you somebody who started last month, simply last month, and let me share with you what they're doing and how much they're generating already. Here's Betty. da 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 da. And here's what she started doing. Then you build a little story around it, right? And just like you, she was afraid, and just like you, she thought it was too late. And so we walked her through our process, right? Step one, we taught the process. Second, we let her look at Victor's process, da 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 da. And then we started, and then within a month, I said last month she generated her first, $800 for whatever it may be. It could be $300. I mean, that's like, okay, great. I said, now the tie down, Deborah. What's the tie down? The tie down is a confirmation, and you want to tie down that it's too late. I'll give you the first few words, Deborah. Can you now see?
Why it's not too late to join us.
Deborah.
My first instinct was, have I shown? So now that I've shown you.
Yeah. No, just something simple. Can you now see? But see how casual that sounds? It's like, can you now see how it isn't too late to start? You've just shut down that objective. And again, now the resistance is coming down. If you systematically hit all their objections and start dismissing them, proving them away, this will begin to happen. The idea? All right, last but not least, we're doing a wild card. I want to know what the wild card is going to be. We've gone through all four. Tony, do you want to solicit the last objection we're going to deal with?
I can, and I think probably you already mentioned it, so I think it's going to be the objection of a lot, is the money issue, of course. I don't have the money to get started.
Okay. How much is it to get started?
With a welcome pack, you can get started for about $150.
Okay, so $150.
Yeah.
So let's do a little survey here, and just raise your hand. Do you really think money is the objection? It isn't. It isn't. It isn't. That's why maybe putting the price objection at the end might be a good idea. Because if I've already shown you 2 or 3 case studies, right? Remember, as I blocked the objection, especially the last one, where somebody made $800. If I showed you that, in your mind you're calculating, well, $140, this lady made $800. If I could just make half of that, it'd be a break-even point. Get the idea? So maybe the reason you're getting the price objection is because you haven't blocked the other stuff. And that's what they're feeling. And I think what you're going to see is that if you systematically reduce their resistance, by the time you get to the price, it's not a big deal. So now, too expensive, right? So, by the way, I'm going to share something with you here. One of the things I like to do, I didn't talk about this in the training session, so just kind of ignore this right here. And so let me tell you a quick story, because I want to introduce a concept to you that if you use it, it's very powerful. Back in the day, do you remember what before the internet? Before the internet, if your car broke down, what would you do? Before the internet, how would you choose a new car? Well, there weren't a lot of resources. What you probably do is ask a few people what they drive, and then maybe look around to see what other people are driving, right? And then you go to the dealership, right? And so the guy at the dealership, that's him right there, right? Joe Salesman. Joe Salesman keeps you on the lot for typically 3 hours, right? Because he knows that if he keeps you on the lot for 3 hours, you don't want to repeat that again, and you're more likely to say yes to a deal, right? So here you come along, hum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum, you get to the dealership. How much information do you have about the car you want? Pre-internet, before the internet, let's say you had about, if this is 3 hours, let's say you had about 20% of information. You had a little bit of information, right? So in other words, you had about maybe 10% of the information you needed to make a decision. Everybody with me? So what then would do, Joe the salesman will spend the next 3 hours with you, talking to you, showing you different things, and just, basically building credibility, building rapport. He has 3 hours to do it. And at the end, boom, he closes you, right? Fast forward today. We have this thing called the internet, right? If your car breaks down, what's the first thing you do? Do you run to the dealership? Yes or no? No. What do? You go online, right? You Google it. Now you look for information. Did you know that the average consumer will look at 10 sources of information before deciding which one to buy? 10. 10 sources of information. So now, when you, the consumer, walk onto the car lot, do you want to spend 3 hours there? Yes or no? No. In fact, when you get there, you know more than the salesman. In fact, in terms of knowledge, you're probably at about the 80–90% range right here in terms of knowing what you need. 80–90%. You with me so far? So you're walking on that lot. You've got a lot of information. And so what you want is a what? Just give me the price. I know what I want. You print it out. You go on Edmunds.com. You get the blue book value. You get the used value. You get the miles. You drop the invoice. You look at all this information. You walk onto the car lot and you say, look, I know what I want. Just give me my price. Right? Just give me my damn price. Please don't try to build rapport. I don't want to be your buddy. I just want a transaction. I don't want a relationship. Right? And that's how selling has changed. Right? Because people don't want to talk to you. And so today's consumer is smarter. So that's the first thing I want to emphasize. And because they're smarter, if you try to sound too salesy, they'll shut down. They'll literally just shut down. And so that's not what you want to do. So again, that's why I tell people not to be so pitchy today, because people will shut down. Second, let me ask you a question. If you're talking to a consumer, this goes to pricing. We're going to talk about pricing, Tony. I'm going to get there. But I need to give you the background info. If you go through a sales process, right? Ask the questions, da-da-da, and you have a meeting with somebody. Have you ever had this meeting where they do the introduction, they ask you a lot of questions, they have your conversation, they show you a lot of stuff. It also has this, it also has that, it comes with this. And what is your brain thinking as you're sitting there for 20, 30 minutes listening to this person tell you about it has this, it has this, it has this? What is your brain thinking?
Shut up.
How, yeah, besides shut up. You're saying, how much? How much is it, right? And then they'll say something like this. Well, I'm going to get the price in just a moment. But it also includes this, it also includes that, it also includes that. And your brain's going, damn it, how much, right? And so finally, when they drop the price right here, towards the end of the conversation, and it's more than you expected to pay, what is your brain going to say? Whoa, 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 whoa. And then you're going to say, you know what? Let me think about it, right? And the person wants to dart out, right? Because you shocked them with the price they didn't expect. And so if this is our 30-minute conversation, listen to what I just said. If this is our 30-minute conversation, should you wait to the minute time 25 minutes to drop price? Yes or no? No. What you want to do is somewhere early on, here, somewhere within the first, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes or whatever it is, right here, early on, 5, 10 minutes, you pick the point. You want to insert the price. You want to find a way to insert the price. Let me tell you why. Because when you do, notice this conversation ended at 30 minutes, okay? This is a 30-minute conversation. When you drop the price here at the 25-minute mark, you probably had about a 5-minute conversation after that. The person says, I'm done. No, thank you. Let me think about it. Let me just, no. But what happens when you drop the price point early in the conversation? Let's say at time 10 minutes. Now you have 20 minutes to show the value. But you also have 20 minutes for them to get used to it. And as soon as I start telling you stories about what other people are making, what other people are doing, especially that last one you mentioned, Tony, how this person made $800, all of a sudden, you know, they're looking at the 150 going, compared to this, not much. But now you've planned the price early. So maybe that's one of the things you need to teach everybody on your team. Never wait till the last minute to present pricing. Present the price early, drop it in early, and then as you go through it, you're building value. Is everybody with me on this one? This is so important because what you're doing is called price conditioning. That's all you're doing is price conditioning. You're not price shocking them. You're conditioning them. And then now, as we're blocking the objections and we're doing the demo part, we're showing them that it's not that expensive. They too can do it. And guess what? $150 compared to what everybody else is making. I just gave you 3 or 4 different stories. As I was blocking the objections, I gave you some stories. As I was blocking the objections, I gave you another story. All I'm doing is building value as I go through this. Everybody with me? because this is probably why you're getting the price thing. One is, the reason you're getting the price objection is that you're presenting price too late, right? So let's move on. Strategy one is to move price earlier on into our conversation. And again, I'm using 10 minutes as an arbitrary reference point. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing, okay, or where you feel comfortable inserting it. Second, as I'm telling these stories, these credible stories, as I'm blocking objections, I'm doing the demo part, I'm telling credible stories of how people are making $800 a month, $500 a month. In their mind, they're doing a mental calculus. Because then, if I do that, I said, let's go back to the response block. Many people tell me this is expensive. And I mentioned the price to you earlier was $150. I said, Nick, here's the offer to resolve. But I've already shown you several examples of what people are doing. Let me go through them again, the demo piece. I told you about da-da-da who's making $300 a month. I told you about da-da who's making $500. And here's da-da-da, again, making $800 a month. Now, my mother always told me, always believe half of what you hear. So if this lady's making $800, okay, I believe half of that. That's $400. Half of that is $200. If you could make $200 a month extra, would that cover the cost of $149 in the first month? I don't know what but that's a return on investment of what, 25, 30%? Whatever it may be. Get the idea? But notice how smooth that was. Come on. That was smooth. That was butter. Come on, that was butter right there. That was money. That's recorded. Get the idea? And so once it goes up, I'm only messing around, by the way. So, but the thing is, it really is that natural. So in this part, you just had to build a value. And on that note, how did we do today?
You did great.
Thank you.
Any questions from anybody?
Lots
Fantastic.
more exactly where to go with conversations, you know, getting started and how to follow through.
Yep. And then towards the end, you know, by the way, my favorite closing line, if you want to borrow my line, it's the one I always use, is based on what I've shown you, is there any reason we shouldn't get started today? That's my favorite closing line because it sounds so smooth. Is there any reason we shouldn't get started today? But here's what's interesting, and I really want you to read the book Response Block Selling, because it talks about something called cognitive dissonance. That if I block the objections and I got them to agree on the tie down, yes, it's not too late to get in. Yes, it can work for me. Yes, if I can get them to say that, what happens is when you get to the end of the 30 minutes, they won't bring up those objections again because you've already blocked them. So if there's the reason I say, is there any other reason we shouldn't get started, what I'm really asking is there any other objections you have? But again, if I know my customers well enough, these are typically 3 to 5 objections you're going to get. And they're very sequential. Cool? Any questions from anybody? Is it really 9:15? Holy buckets.
No, it's not.
I talk a lot, don't I?
8:15. We have 45 minutes left.
Oh, time doesn't matter to me. Like I said, we still got round 3 after this, right? We still got one more after this, right?
We do.
Yeah. So any questions on this one?
Just so everybody knows, and Victor too, Tuesday evening will be our final. Will be our final round for now. We may decide to take you up on some more, Victor. We're going to get together and decide that.
Okay. We may have to reschedule on Tuesday, Tony. So let's talk about that after this. Okay. We'll figure out a time to make it convenient for everybody. But okay. Any other questions?
Any questions?
If you have a question, let's do this. Post them on the private page that you have on Facebook, Tony.
Okay.
How's that? And then just kind of say, Victor, here's my question, and then I'll respond to those. How's that?
Okay.
And just tag me so I'll know that the question's there.
Great
And by the
deal.
way, if you want to send me just an email directly, it's victor@victorantonio.com, and just put Tony's group, and I'll know what that's from. So if you have a question, you need me to reference something, maybe even help you with the wording a little bit. I'm here to help. I want you guys to be successful. Okay? Cool?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Mega high five to everybody. Thank you, Tony.
Virtual high five. Thank you so much. Lots of value again, and we will get our next meeting scheduled. Good night.
Do your thing. All right, ladies. Bye-bye. See ya.